Hello there, welcome along to another cool episode of The Voice of Boxing in association with Loungers TV, the streaming platform. Check them out and check this guy out. He's a big man. It's Big Mo who's in the house today.
Yes.
In the studio,
Yes.
which is a pleasure. We've been talking about this for a while.
I know.
You're obviously the other side of the pond. You come over, you do your bit here, you go there. A lot of transatlantic traveling, but finally you've made it. You're in
Yes.
London, and welcome to LaunchPod Studios
Yeah, it's
in
gorgeous.
Mill Hill.
It's gorgeous in here.
It's nice, isn't it?
You weren't exaggerating. I'm just happy we got to work together again. It's been a while since we were on the same side of the microphone. It's good.
Has been a while. It was a pleasure first getting to know you when
you.
Boxer and Sky sort of joined forces a few years back.
Yeah.
But I want to take you back.
Yeah.
We see you in the center of the ring. You're very good. You entertain us. You are not just a young MC, but a powerful and somebody who I think A, gets the crowd going, but B, that we remember and we are now getting more and more familiar with. But going right back, I know you've done other things in your life, a lot of other things. And tell me sort of what was the childhood like, and the fact, did you think, okay, I've got a good voice, I'm going to use it, I'm going to boom it around the world, I'm doing something. I mean, what was the plan?
Well, I would love to tell you that my goal was to be a ring announcer my whole life, and I studied it my whole life. No, oddly enough, I actually grew up kind of socially awkward. I don't know, I just was kind of figuring out who I was. You know, I was this tall, lanky kid, and I kind of wasn't always social at times and things like that. But oddly enough, I always was kind of a good presenter, kind of a good speaker. I always was engaging in class. I loved school. I was raised by a former trial attorney, so he taught me the importances of presentation, both with how you speak, but also how you dress and how you command presence and things like that. So he instilled that a lot in me, and I always just enjoyed entertainment, and I still enjoy entertainment to this day. I think my love for ring announcing, as much as I do love the sport and am passionate about combat sports, I love the entertainment side of it almost more. I like that presentation. I think you can relate because you and I have similar jobs in that respect. And I just always enjoyed it. And then I think that later just evolved into taking different opportunities and applying your past to your future and that type of thing. And that's how I've landed in the situation that I'm in now. And I love it.
It's a fascinating one. Where was home? Where did you grow up?
I grew up, so I was born in outside of San Diego, California, in Oceanside. But then I lived in Colorado my whole life. I grew up outside of Boulder, and now I live in Denver. And now I fly over and split my time in London in the UK. So it's crazy.
Denver's a cool place. Great
I like
place.
it. I like it. I like it. I'm ready for kind of a change of scenery at some point. I like big cities, and so I would love to go live in New York or in LA or Miami or something, or maybe even a London at some point. So, but I'm happy that I get that fill of that here.
So you love school.
Yes.
You love sport.
Yes.
Basketball, what did you excel at? Football?
So first sport I ever did was martial arts, oddly enough, which
Really?
I think is where my love for combat sports started. But then as I evolved and my body grew, I pursued basketball and American football. Ended up playing American football in college at university. Got my undergrad and my master's degree there, played for 5 years, and then
Where
my
are you
career
at?
was over. I played at the University of Northern Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. So went there for 5 years, picked up a couple degrees, and then moved on with my life.
And then what was it? Business first?
Yeah. So I helped start a technology company, or I joined on early at a technology company that actually was started by one of my good friends, my best friend's older brother, who's now my other friend. We've kind of helped build the company with some people, and now we've grown to almost 20 employees, over 20 employees, and it's gone crazy. We're at almost 750,000 users that are on the platform and the application. So I run the operations of the company, and then my ring announcing and entertainment, I do kind of where I can or when there's fights and things like that. So when I come over here, I do all the boxing and the media stuff in the morning, and then I go back to my hotel and work the American workday from 4 to midnight, because that would be basically 9 to 5 in America.
That's incredible. You didn't know that about Big Mo, did
No.
you? It's only a side hustle, this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love entertainment, and I would love to make it my full-time career at some point, whether it's, obviously I want to keep ring announcing forever, but if it's hosting shows or acting or whatever, I just enjoy entertaining people. I get a sense of euphoria from watching people have a good time and watching people enjoy themselves. And I think part of that also probably why you're in the industry too, is it's when you feel that energy of a fight and you see 20,000 people that spent their hard-earned money to go enjoy something and you're a part of what they're enjoying. I think that gives me a sense of pride, and that's really what I'm passionate about. So
I was about to say, I think the bond between us is very similar to that. I grew up loving acting, loving presenting, was quite shy, and always wanted to be a commentator because I could be around sport, be telling stories, and be around people. And I think we're lucky, you in the ring, us on the outside of the ring, just being involved. The fighters are the ones that get in and put their lives and careers on the line, and they're the brave ones. But we are still, I guess, part of the show. And it is that fusion between sport and entertainment.
Yeah, I think you need, for proper storytelling, you need a narrator, you need an orator, you need someone that can communicate what's going on beyond just what's happening visually. I think that boxing and combat sports is really unique in that sense because it's so much presentation. What's the most anticipated part of a fight? Half the time it's the ring walk. It's not even the fight itself. It's because people love that atmosphere because there's nothing like a fight. I've tried to explain this to my friends that, we're American football or basketball or baseball. And I'm like, it's just different because when you have those team sports, it's 11 on 11 or it's 10 on 10 or 5 on 5. In a fight, it is 1-on-1. That's it. And every single person in that arena, every single person that's watching at home is watching just two people. Half the time, they're even just watching one person because they only care about who they're rooting for. It creates a different dynamic. And I think if you haven't attended a fight, it's hard to relate to what I'm saying. Obviously, you've attended many more than I have. It's a different feeling when you're at a fight, and it's addicting.
It is. I think that reminds me of when Eddie came to Sky, and we sort of started to turn leisure centres into arenas and get people in there and packed, and about them having a great time on the night. And that's so important. You're right. They're paying their hard-earned money. It is entertainment, and there is nothing like the build-up. We can't make the fighters fight. It's down to what happens in the ring, but we can help direct traffic to making it a really, really enticing night.
Yeah, I think, look, if you want to watch a fight on mute because you just love it, do your thing. But I'm the type of person where I want to hear everything. I want to hear the crowd. I want to hear the referee talk. I want to hear the clacker of 10 seconds. I want to hear the bell ring. It's just a different it's a different experience, a different atmosphere when you factor in sights and sounds and you're hearing the punches landing and you hear one side of the arena go crazy and the other one kind of wince in pain. You hear the corners shouting at everyone. It's addicting. It's really cool.
So people are saying to me, "Who's that Big Mo? He's great. He's always delivering the lines." What was the first ever gig like that you did?
Yeah, so I
Slightly
remember
nervy, or
So when I got started, I was 23. I was finishing up grad school. I wasn't playing football anymore, so I had time to occupy. And I was like, you know what? Like, I had friends that said I should try commentary or I should try to go into that because that's a common thing that when you get done playing or participating, you become a pundit or an analyst or whatever. But I was tired of football and basketball, and I got hurt playing football, and I was just like, that was a different part of my life. But I loved combat sports. At the time, I was a massive UFC fan. I was a growing boxing fan. I was really keen on a few boxers that were having some success in America. I remember David Haye was like, still my favorite British boxer is David Haye. I'm a huge David Haye fan. But like, I remember, when he came to America and beat Valuev, that was a big event and things like that. So I was a growing fan, got into combat sports, and I started off as a commentator. I started calling different promotions locally, and I just said, hey, I'm this young kid. I'm pretty dynamic. I'm loud. I think I'm fairly charismatic on a microphone. Do you need a color commentator? And I found one in Denver that did. And they were a very established promotion. They still are. They're called Sparta. They've fed a lot of people into the UFC, into various organizations. Started off as a color commentator, just added energy and dynamic, and that's it. Couldn't really talk about the sport that much, but I tried to do it where I could and where it was appropriate. But I remember seeing the ring announcer, and I was like, I feel like I could do that. I don't know why. And so I eventually convinced the promoter to let me do it. I did it for the first time. There was like maybe 150 people there. It was at a fairgrounds in Colorado, which is basically a covering for where they do horse and stable events and things like that, or stock shows. Did it, and I had a lot of people that said, "Hey, like, you have a voice." I don't think I was really fine tuning what I was doing at at the point, but a lot of managers and coaches were saying, hey, you might be onto something here. So I said, okay, well, if I'm going to pursue this, I'm going to try to be the best at it. So I immediately started just trying to figure out ways to get my name out there, started becoming more comfortable on camera and things like that. And that was another important aspect of that first job.
What sort of work did you do there?
Yeah.
For the young out there who think, oh, I want to be and some come to me and say, I want to be a commentator. What's your advice? Or others go and say, how do you present? Or to be a ring announcer, what did you do? What work did you do?
It's a great question.
Naturally, obviously, you've got something.
Yeah.
But what extras did you
This is
put
why
in?
I wanted to do this podcast with you, is because I think you can appreciate what I'm doing from a technical side more than a lot of people can, because there's a lot of similarities between our jobs. So when I got started, I remember that I didn't necessarily I didn't know where I wanted to take it, but I knew who was out there that I thought was very good. And in my opinion, and still to this day, the Buffer brothers, Michael and Bruce, in my opinion, are the gold standard. I think that they have different styles, but I think that both of them are very, very effective in what they do. I think that Bruce is perfect for the UFC. I think Michael is perfect for boxing. I think if you switched them, I'm not even sure if it would work. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, what are each of them doing to do the job? How do they do their job? What are some of the technical aspects? And where can I just understand the framework of how to do this? I understand that I'm going to have to fill in the blanks. I'm going to have my own style. I maybe have to say words slightly differently or have a different pattern of speech or things like that. But what are the technical aspects of doing it? So as soon as I did that, I started doing it for the entire industry. I built an entire database. This is the business side of me. I built a database of ring announcers because I remember there's no textbook on how to be a ring announcer. There's no how to ring announce fights for dummies, and it gives you step by step. You got to figure it out on your own. It's a very niche industry. So I built out this database, and I just started seeing how every ring announcer was different. What do they have about them that makes them unique? What's their catchphrase? What do they announce for? Do they do MMA? Do they do boxing? Do some do both? Do they do kickboxing? Are they bilingual? I just started to understand who's who and who's doing what. And I started to see gaps in the market. And it is what it is. One gap that I had is I was a different age bracket than a lot of them. So that presented one opportunity to be different. I was doing all sports. That was not the same for a lot of announcers. A lot of them only did one sport or another. Some did multiple. And so I just started crafting what I was doing. I branded myself as Big Mo for no other reason than because it was simple. My last name is kind of complex and hard to pronounce. So the story behind
your
Big
real
Mo,
name is
Mommaerts.
Mommaerts. Kody Mommaerts.
Yeah. So
And Big Mo was just
it was a nickname that I had. I used to be way bigger when I played American football. So I had that Big Mo nickname, and I go, that's easy. 2 syllables, 5 letters, 1 space in between. No one's ever going to mispronounce it. So I just used Big Mo simply as a way to brand myself. I fully anticipated getting rid of it, ditching it at some point once I had established myself, and it kind of just stuck. And I was like, you know what? People call me Big Mo. I'll keep it. It's fine. If people want to call me Kody, that's cool. I don't really care what people call me. I used to wear sunglasses in the ring for the same purpose, just to brand myself, just to get my name out there. And it was effective. It worked. I mean, got to do some big fights, and then eventually Sky called.
I remember the conversation.
And now I've gotten to go on Netflix, so clearly I did something right, you know? But no, I knew everything was a progression and everything was a step-by-step to get to where I am now.
And technically, what did you work on? So in front of the mirror, behind the scenes, I was talking to Michael Buffer the other day, and I said, did you ever used to say, that let's get in front of a mirror? You know, what did you, he said, sometimes when I was driving along, I'd go, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And, and it's, what did you do?
So,
What do you still do?
Yeah. So being a ring announcer, when you strip everything away and when you strip the theatrics away and the tuxedos and the showmanship and the television, you're a public speaker. And there's a lot of just generic things that you have to know to be an effective public speaker. So start there. And I've talked to college classes before. I've talked to communications classes. I've talked to people try to become better speakers. I've talked to a couple corporate teams about it. There's a couple just technical things that you want to do, right? Posture is important. The way that you project is important. The way that you emphasize certain words, or you have a cadence to how you speak. Maybe you pause to add emphasis to a certain word. And you can always look at speakers and get nuances from each of them. And so what I started doing beyond just ring announcers, because I think there's a lot of good ring announcers, but I think that there's also some lackluster ones. So I didn't want to take stuff from everybody. So I tried to pay attention to the positives and some of the negatives, but I started looking at other types of individual speakers, whether it be ring announcers or not. So I started looking at stand-up comics. I started looking at pastors and preachers. I started examining how people address a room, because the whole purpose of my job, for all practical purposes, is to get people's attention. The purpose of an MC, the purpose of a host, or whatever you want to call my job, ring announcer, is to get the attention of 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people to say, everyone focus in, the fight's about to start. I'm about to tell you information that you already know, but you're going to like it. You're going to get energized. The fighters are going to feel something from it, and I have to get your attention. So there's a lot of nuance to practice that. And then beyond that, I worked with vocal coaches a little bit. I listened to how opera singers project their voice, and how to speak from the diaphragm versus just yelling and shouting. I think a lot of MCs, they maybe see what Bruce Buffer started with the more animated style, and they think that they just need to shout or they need to yell. It's not always the case. I was guilty of that when I got started. So learning actually how to project my voice was very important. So there's a lot. I could go on for hours about the technical side of everything. It's a lot more in depth than I think people realize.
And how do you split your time between the two businesses? I mean, is it literally you get a gig, you come over, you do what you need to do, and then it's straight back to the business? It's which do you prefer? Is there a sort of an end point here for one of them?
I mean, who knows? I think they don't cross over, which is actually nice because it gives me a break from each of them. I can almost, if I'm getting too deep in the weeds with boxing, which is very easy, you find yourself down a rabbit hole on the 8th YouTube channel, and you're like, how many opinions do I need to watch on Fury AJ before I get tired of it, right? So then I can turn over to what I'm doing, or vice versa. So it's not that I have a focus on either one. I just think that I have a couple different skill sets, and I like to stay busy, I guess.
So you're known for Boxer over here, for first and foremost. How did that come about with Ben and Baz and the team, and how do you feel it's gone over the last few years?
You act like you don't know this story. No, I'm kidding. So I remember I started growing on the regional scene, and I started getting my name out there more. And when COVID happened, the promotion I was working with kept putting on fights in the state of Wyoming in a parking lot. We did outdoor fights because these fighters needed fights. These were fighters that they weren't UFC level. They weren't, the Matchroom Boxer top ranked Golden Boy level, but they needed to get there, and they needed to stay active because their career needs to progress. So we found a way to have fights, which allowed me to have work and to practice what I was doing when a lot of other MCs weren't working. So that was really valuable.
Really valuable.
And from promoting myself on social media and getting myself out there, I started building and getting bigger roles and bigger roles. And I remember I got hired by a bare knuckle company called BYB, who I still work for today, along with Boxer. I love both of them. And that was the first time that I got to work with a real production, with real talented people. It was Mike Goldberg, former voice of the UFC with Joe Rogan, Paulie Malignaggi, Claudia Trejos, Benny Ricardo.
Excellent.
And it's a great team. And that was the first time that I got to work with like real top-notch professionals. And I was 24 or maybe 25. And so I was working in my second year in the industry with these people that have been in the industry for 25, 30 years. And I'm still very thankful to them because they took me in rather than push me away. That was kind of the unfortunate side of my starting in my career, is I was very hungry. I was cold calling every promotion. I remember I waited out certain promotions' offices, waiting just to hopefully shake someone's hands. Like I was very much that go-getter salesman type of approach. And I got turned away a lot because the promoters were going, why would we hire a 24, 25-year-old MC? There's 30 MCs that have been in the industry for 20 years. Why would we risk this broadcast with this young kid? Because I think what people forget about a live broadcast, it's structured, it's sport, but you're giving someone a hot microphone to a television audience. There's a lot of risk that goes involved because they're pressing live and they're just giving you free rein to say whatever you want to say. You can mess up, you can say the wrong thing, you can misspeak, whatever. So I understand why they were averse to giving me work. So that was an important door to chop down by showing, no, I am a professional. No, this is not a gimmick. No, I care about my job. This is a career that I want to pursue. This isn't just something I'm doing for fun on social media. So when I got to work with those people, it kind of shifted the narrative a little bit of who I was, which was important. I ended up doing Eddie Hall versus Hafthor Bjornsson, their giant fight in Dubai, which was a spectacle on its own. Two of the craziest athletes I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing what they did. And it was on that trip, I got a DM from Baz and Boxer saying, hey, we found you. We'd love to give you a try, blah, blah, blah. I had no idea who Sky was at the time. I just was new to the industry. I was an American, so a lot of the Sky stuff, I'd seen their logos, but I'd never watched their product and didn't know who Boxer was because they were brand new. But I was like, hey, this is a big network. This is a good opportunity. And then it just went quiet. I didn't hear from anyone. And I was like, okay, that was kind of weird. And then they reached out again. They said, hey, we want to do a test run with you. And I was like, great, I'll do it for free. Don't pay me. I just want to show you what I can do. That was Bournemouth, the first Bournemouth with Chris Billum-Smith.
I remember.
In a way, probably the best environment I could have started in, because the Bournemouth fans, especially for CBS, are just
amazing.
Rabid. They're amazing. They're amazing. So I almost like, regardless of how I did, maybe I would have been received well. But the point is it worked well. I have a more animated style than a lot of MCs. And I think that played really well to that Bournemouth crowd. So it just worked. I got to meet yourself. And I remember you and I had a conversation at the Hilton that helped kind of structure my career. And I still think about that conversation to this day. And a couple months later, I was announcing the undisputed world title for Shields versus Marshall at the O2 at 26. And now the rest is history, I guess. So
it's wonderful stuff. It really is. I love those sort of stories where passion and commitment. And I'm always telling my kids that get in front of people, be proactive, because no one wants to take you on if you sit back, right?
No.
You've got to be in front of them and knocking on all those doors, and you're going to be turned away. I remember hundreds and hundreds of letters I wrote out of university to get into the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, you name it. And I got the rejection letters, but I had a name on the bottom, and I thought, hey, I've got a name now. Yeah. I can go and knock on the door. And again, you get turned away a lot, but it is persistence in this business, and you've got to have resilience. And of course, because you are centre stage too, you've got to be, you've got to have tough skin. You've got to have a confidence, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I think it's when you put yourself out there, and it's the same reason public speaking is the number one fear amongst young people. It's above drowning and burning alive. It's like public speaking freaks people out. The reason why people get freaked out about public speaking is not the action of public speaking. It's the fear of what could happen if I do a bad job in front of all these people, right? That's why they tell you, picture everyone's in their underwear and things like that to help calm you down, and all those traditional tricks with public speaking. But yeah, you're putting yourself out there in a way that is very not similar to a lot of jobs. Like when you look at what a ring announcer does, it's pretty unique, because I'm the only person, a ring announcer is the only person on a broadcast that talks to both the in-arena crowd and the TV crowd. Commentators only talk to the TV crowd. So there's a different structure to how I do my job, because yes, I want to be pleasing to the people that are watching on camera, but I also have to please the people that are watching 10 feet away from me. So there's a nuance to it all. Yeah, I'm passionate about what I do because I think I have a position that I respect a lot. I think that the people that have done my job and the events that have been affected by people that do my job, I think it's cool. I think there's a lot of history to it. And to me, it comes down to all these people paid a lot of money to come here. They're expecting a show. We have no idea how the fight's going to go. It could suck, or it could be the greatest fight they've ever seen. But what we can control is, you know what? We don't know how the fight's going to go, but we can at least give people a feeling like they actually are witnessing something great. Whether or not it actually goes great, that's out of my hands. But if I can make it feel like an event for someone, then maybe I can make someone's night or someone's year or whatever. So I really enjoy what I do.
I really get that, and having worked for years at Sky on building up box office events and doing all those shows, the gloves are off, the weigh-ins, the countdowns, ringside, all of this stuff is all about anticipation for that moment. And then you get the mic and you get the opportunity to address the crowd, to call the gladiators into battle, and then again to bring them to the ring, and then to sort of go through their records. I mean, it's a fantasy job, really.
It's funny that, like, so I've said this before, and it's a compliment where I'm going with this, but my job is ridiculous when you think about it. I get into a ring. I'm wearing a tuxedo. Some people might be wearing tuxedos. There have been very formal boxing matches before, of course. I'm wearing a tuxedo. I'm at full volume yelling information that maybe you already know, like introducing people that you already know are fighting, right? But for some reason, it works. It fits and it makes sense. And I remember seeing it because I was the first person in my friend group when I was in college that really liked fights. Was really into the UFC, really into boxing. And I remember I used to put on fights during pre-games or pre-parties before we'd go out and we'd just be hanging out. I'd throw on the fight. Maybe I'd mute it, maybe not. And I remember none of my friends knew how the scoring worked. None of my friends could tell me the difference between a 10-8 round or a 10-9 round or what a haymaker versus an uppercut is. They didn't know all that. But what they knew was when the lights went down and an arena of 30,000 people all have their phones out and they're all yelling and screaming and people are drinking and singing and having a good time. And then music hits and then pyro goes off and there's smoke. And then you see a champion holding a belt above his head and everyone in the arena is going crazy. And you know that this guy is making like $20 million. Like there's nothing else like it. And they could relate to that, which showed me that the show of boxing, the show of combat sports, for a large percentage of viewers is the most important part. So might as well be a part of it. Might as well put on a show and help introduce these fighters and these gladiators.
The entertainment, the show, there's no one that puts on a show like Big Mo. And some of your lines are just fantastic. And they get the crowd going. And, you know, it's raise your beers. It's get on with it. It's fun, isn't it? It's almost like you're talking to them. We always say that across the television, you know, they're like the people in your next room. You know, it's almost like relating to not just the people at ringside or the fighters. It's all the ones dotted around that are going to be having a good time or waiting for that big moment.
Well, I remember, I mean, the conversation that I had with you was really important because I remember I flew over to the UK. At this point, I had met a couple people via text, and that's pretty much it, right? So I didn't really know who was who. I'm meeting a lot of people. I knew who Baz was and some of the other people at Boxer. At the time, I had met Ben just over the phone. I had never met you. And it was important for me to meet you because, yes, while I do work for the promotion, for all practical purposes, I work for the network also. There's a lot of shared responsibilities.
There is with an MC.
And so I wanted to meet you and I wanted to have a conversation with you because I also was nervous because I knew with British boxing specifically and boxing in general, there's a lot of tradition. There's a lot of things that people have kept the same way. There's a lot of... They may make subtle adjustments here and there, but they really like how this thing is said or how this thing is read or, you know, in this country you have the British Board of Control, right? In America, we have 50 different commissions for 50 different states. So there's different rules from state to state. Here in this country, you pretty much do it the same way, regardless of if you're Matchroom or Boxer or Wasserman or Queensbury. The structure of the show, as in the eyes of the British Board, is the same. So I was careful on, okay, well, how much should I embellish? Should I be myself? Should I change what I'm doing? And I remember talking to you, and what you said was critical to my career because I remember you said, you're here for a reason. We found you based on what you do. We didn't bring you over here to be any different. So be who you are and announce the same way. And I think I did. I've had to adjust it maybe slightly, maybe tone it down at certain points, but I think I've got it now. And luckily I have a pretty prosperous career to show for it, I think. So thank you.
It's brilliant to see. And you just get better and better. You're authentic, you're passionate, you bring the crowd in. Whether I watch you on a live show like I will be next weekend or whether I watch you on the TV, for me, you bring a magic to it. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. And I've always looked up to the Lennons and the Buffers, and they're the legendary ring announcers. And I work with David DiBionte a lot of time. I work with John McDonnell a lot, who does the darts still. Many other ring announcers. And we even had a competition at Sky
really?
about a decade ago to find an MC.
Really?
We had people in and we were trying it out. It was a bit of fun, really, a bit like the X Factor. It was a bit of fun, but I don't know if we really found anyone. And then you came and you just brought something different, some freshness, a live vibrancy. I don't know what it was, but it may be a mixture. And you look good in the ring. You know, my mum's like, he's a really good-looking guy too. You know, so there's all of that, right? And then you get selected to do. Can we call it a fight? The biggest event in in a long time in boxing, certainly in youth entertainment stakes. You know, my daughters and son, you know, they knew about, know about Jake Paul. They know, we all know and lived and breathed Mike Tyson. He was a hero as we were growing up. And he was somebody that actually, you know, we all wanted to introduce, you know, the Iron Mike Tyson, you know, from Brownsville, the ghetto, all that stuff. And I remember thinking on the night, I was doing some build up for TalkSport, and they'd gone over, and I was quite pleased I wasn't going over, but I had to watch it because I was doing the fight night for them the next day because I wasn't quite sure what to make of the event. I didn't like seeing a 58-year-old man in a ring, but I respected the fact that he got himself into tremendous shape. And my big thing was he doesn't get hurt, and it's treated a bit like an exhibition, and everyone gets out happy. And Jake Paul's brilliant at what he does, and the crowds were amazing, and the figures on Netflix out of this world and whatever. But the stadium itself looked, and of course we had the incredible fight between Katie and Amanda. But I think it is important on these sort of nights to get really good fights as well. But however you look at, and you say we cannot deal with what happens after the bell goes, and that was down to, on that occasion, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson over 8 very strange 2-minute rounds. But take me to the arena, the stadium, the heart of it. Take me to how you were, why were you asked, and what you felt about delivering that night. Because I'll tell you my thoughts after, but I want to hear what you felt.
I appreciate that. So I originally got the call for that fight. So Jake Paul's team tried to hire me before. I love the team of Most Valuable Promotions. I've worked with a lot of promotions. They're extremely professional. If you ever have worked with them, you will enjoy it. They called me in May or June when the fight was supposed to happen in July. And they said, hey, we want you to do this fight. I was like blown away. It was a fraction of what it was at that time, but I was like, yeah, absolutely. Netflix, I'm in, absolutely. It then gets postponed, and I'm like, damn, you know, who knows if it'll happen again. That's the downside of boxing is, of course. what I always tell people, and you can relate, is until I'm standing in the ring, I have no faith of any show.
Till we see Big Mo in there,
I have no
it's
faith.
going to happen.
I have no faith in a fight.
Unless it's not going to happen, and they're not going to come out of the dressing room, which has happened a couple of times before. But
knock on wood there. So then I was like, all right, well, I stayed on top of it. Is the fight happening? Is he, you know, because he got that ulcer or whatever. So I was like, is it going to happen? Is it not? Whatever. Is it going to stay on Netflix? And then we're like a month out, and it went back and forth for a while of who do we hire? Who is this? Apparently, you know, there was a lot of discussion about it and things like that. So I'm happy that I got the offer, and I obviously jumped at it. What that event meant for me, if I'm just being honest, it was validation for me in the sense of I had been grinding in this industry on small hall shows, doing shows for free, small events, building, this show. Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do this. There's no broadcaster for this one. No problem. I need the reps, you know, drive an hour, whatever I had to do to kind of get work. But I always was big on visualization, big on affirmation. And I remember I just never pictured that I was where I was announcing. I was picturing that I was in Madison Square Garden or at the O2 and things like that. So then when I got to do Shields Marshall, that was like the first, like, okay, I'm in this industry. I did an undisputed title fight. I've done a pay-per-view size fight, O2, sellout, millions of viewers. I've done it. Great. But I hadn't done that big stadium. I just never had done it. Biggest crowd I had done to that point was Smith Eubank, which was probably like 21,000. So I was like, I want to do a big stadium fight. And so I was like, this is a big show for me. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it's a big platform and things like that. So the whole week, it was about just doing what I do. I'd done big fights before. Same prep, same focus, etc. Going through it all, working with Netflix for the first time, working with MVP for the first time. This was a unique event. I was working with people that I'd never thought that I was going to work with before. Ariel Helwani was there, and then Mike Tyson's son was there, and then Tyron Woodley was there, and then Roy Jones was there, and it was just a collection of a lot of great people to work with. So building up, it was going great. Lots of traffic, lots of people talking about it. And in the beginning, I think they were anticipating like 20 million viewers, which would have been a massive success regardless. And then it started to build a little bit more, and Netflix is going, no, this is our first live sporting event. Like, I think a lot of our viewers are going to tune in for this. And they were anticipating like 50 or 60 million, which again would be crazy. And then Tyson slapped him. And then that just went viral amongst viral because that was the first snap we got of Mike. And I'm going to pause the story for a second. Mike Tyson, an icon, a legend, one of my favorite fighters. When people talk about aura and people talk about an energy with someone, I've never felt that with someone in my whole life. When he slapped Jake, security didn't want to touch him. Security guards, giant guys who pick up people for a living, they were like, do we touch him? Do we not? And his manager was like, just let him cool off, just let him relax. Like, all of that was 100% real. So then that happened, and then the fight just exploded. Sold out everything. I get to the arena. I see name cards laid out like the Oscars for all the celebrities that are going to be there. Like A-listers are 20 rows back. I'm like, this is not a small show. This is big. And then I started to like feel it. Ended up doing rehearsals. First time working with a director named Dave Harmon, who did HBO for a very long time.
Very good director.
Yeah. I was going to say, you probably know him. First time ever working with him. He didn't really know what to expect. And I remember we did rehearsals and he was like, go. And when I do rehearsals, there is no like warm up. I'm full in it. This is how I'm going to sound on fight night because I need the audio levels to be appropriate. And he finished and he was like, that was great. We're good. And I was like, cool, one take, I'm out of here. Let's go. So I had a good connection with him from the beginning. And then the fight night started and people were showing up super early. Like I was seeing celebrities at like 7:30 and I was like, what is it like this? It just, the whole feel was totally different to anything I'd ever felt before. And then Mario Barrios fought and that was a great fight. Biggest crowd he had. And by the way, prior to this, the prelims had 1 million viewers.
Wow.
The prelims had 1 million viewers on 2 YouTube channels, so 2 million viewers, not even counting if people were streaming and things like that. So I was seeing these numbers and I was going, this is big. Because I'd felt big with Shields Marshall. This was big. And then Taylor Serrano happened. And that just blew the roof off of everything because you had a lot of viewers that were tuning in early. A lot of people were just going to tune in for Jake versus Mike, obviously. But a lot of people were getting into the show earlier because everyone was watching it. I was getting texts from people that don't watch fights saying, are you watching this? Blah, 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 blah. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano happens. Serrano's busted open. They go all rounds, back and forth. People think Serrano should have won. People think Taylor should have won. It was equally, if not better than the first fight. And then that's when the event just went crazy. That's when the buildup started happening. Everyone was pumped up because Taylor Serrano, 50 million homes watch Taylor Serrano.
That's
50 million. That's why when people want to complain about that show, zoom out. That's my only argument to people that want to complain. I'm like, please zoom out for the sport of boxing. Because you know who's not complaining? Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. They're not complaining. Mario Barrios ain't complaining. So
and it's entertainment, and it's what we've talked about. It's the show mixed with sport.
For the first time in a long time, boxing was the number one thing being talked about everywhere. So to be a part of it was an honor for me. Whether people want to talk about the fight or things like that, I disagree with a lot of the takes. I really have no complaints about the show. Some people like ketchup, some people like mustard, whatever. The point is it was an amazing event. And so when I was there, it was sold out. I'm looking into the audience. Shaquille O'Neal, Jerry Jones, Charlize Theron, rappers, artists, musicians, blah, blah, blah. I turn over here. Governor of Texas, a senator, one billionaire, one person here. And I'm just like, this is insane. But it showed who Mike Tyson was, just so many people, and still is. So I was like, all right, I need to let this rip. Like, and I need to really deliver. And I knew I already had to. So that's why, like, it was a great build up the whole night. It wasn't too many fights. So I was feeling good in the voice and in the diaphragm and things like that.
Because that's important.
Very much. Those long cards, you'd be surprised. You got to manage your energy, and you know that too. You got to manage your energy and your voice over the course of the evening. So it was only 7 fights. So I was like, this is no problem. And then Mike Tyson's in the ring. Jake Paul's in the ring. I see people that I was meeting ringside sitting there, and I'm just like, this is unbelievable. I'm about to introduce Mike Tyson. And then it just kind of just went numb, because from my vantage point, yeah, that stadium, there were 75,000 people there, but from my vantage point, I only see what's dead in front of me. And so it feels the same as the O2. It doesn't feel any different from where I'm standing or what I'm seeing. And it's dark everywhere too. So it kind of just went numb, and I kind of just got in the zone, and I felt the same that I felt from a lot of other announcements. I didn't feel nervous. I just honestly just replaced the name that I'm introducing, and I'm still going to deliver it the same way. I'm still going to show that same energy. I added a little bit more to his introduction. And then I got out of the ring, and this is one of the coolest stories of my career. So at this point, I knew a couple people ringside because Shaq had been to a couple fights, so I'd met him previously before. And he was sitting next to Rob Gronkowski, who I got to meet, who's an icon to me from American football. And I sat down and I get tapped on my shoulder, and it's Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And he goes, shakes my hand, and he goes, "That is the best introduction that I've ever heard. Thank you for being here." And I just was like, I was like, "Thank you for letting me in your home. And you built this, so thanks for hosting, I guess. You've been a great host." It was at that moment that I sat down, and like that was one of the few times in my career where I actually I was like, I just did that. Like it was a surreal moment for me, and it was probably one of the coolest moments of my life.
It was amazing watching it. I was so proud of you actually in that moment, because I knew you'd deliver, but the way you delivered, and again, we all sort of practice the build-ups to things, but to get all of that in, knowing you had one opportunity to recall the career really of a legend in that time that you had, and I loved it. That was one of my favorite moments of the entire night, and Katie Serrano obviously was right up there too.
It was incredible.
It was fantastic, and I think the kids and the entertainment side of it, and of course you're going to get your detractors, your ketchup and mustard. I love Misfits because of the entertainment, but I love hardcore boxing because I'm a hardcore boxing fan. But
look, I think a lot of
you've
people,
got to adapt. You've got to adapt.
Look, I understand why a lot of people may not like Jake Paul, but one thing that Jake does, which I think a lot of people may not notice, is he's the main event, but he puts everyone else on that card just as much. And everything else on that card is 100% top-notch pros. Mario Barrios, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. Those are world champion, Hall of Fame level fighters, especially for Taylor Serrano. And a lot of people also don't know that the way that show was promoted, it was promoted as a co-main. If you looked at all the promotional materials, it was Paul Tyson, but it was Taylor Serrano also. And there were a lot of conversations to elevate Taylor Serrano to the main event over Tyson Paul. For commercial reasons, I'm not sure if it would work.
Yeah.
But the point is, 100 million people watched boxing. When was the last time that a boxing match even came close to those types of figures? The biggest broadcaster in the world chose boxing as their first live sporting event. I don't care what you think about the main event. That helped boxing, for the industry of boxing, for whether it's a promoter, whether it's a fighter, whether it's a coach, whether it's a local gym, whether it's merchandise sales, whether it's whatever. That event was important for the sport of boxing. So I loved it, top to bottom.
Unbelievable event. Unbelievable that Turki Al-Sheikh has committed so much to the fight scene in the last year and a half. Extraordinary times now where we're getting these huge fight cards almost.
We have so much momentum
every other week. And what part do you want to play in it? Obviously, you have boxer. Obviously, you're contracted to things, but surely you're itching to call out other names in fights.
Look, I think I understand the position that I'm in. I'm very thankful that my career has progressed as quickly as it has. I love where I'm at. I love what I'm doing. I think what Turki and His Excellency and Riyadh are doing is instrumental for the sport. I think that it's the injection, whether it be capital, whether it be focus, whether it be attention, whether it be whatever you want to call it, it's the injection that the sport needed. I think that last year was the first year in a while where boxing was the king combat sport. We saw the UFC go on a run that was unbelievable. And I'm a huge UFC fan. I love what Dana White has done. Would love to maybe work with him someday. Who knows?
Stunning what he's done.
Absolutely. No complaints. But I think last year was the first year that boxing kind of came back and said, no, we have some great fights that are going to start happening. So I love that. And I like now that they, however you want to evaluate it, are also investing into the secondary and tertiary products of boxing, with the Ring magazine, with the media that's going on, with the award shows. Like, the industry of boxing is slowly, it's getting solidified again, because boxing, and this is why I love boxing, it's a very fragmented and almost broken sport. I think that that's what makes it amazing, is the fact that it can come together the way that it can is incredible. The fact that we're able to take 4 governing bodies, multiple promoters, multiple broadcasters, multiple countries, and actually figure it out is crazy. And I think a lot of people don't even really acknowledge the behind the scenes of what's going on with
the
boxing.
Wild West, and it
Oh
has,
my God.
has been for years.
And in a way, I almost don't want that to change because I think it's just amazing for boxing. But I'm happy that the industry is growing also. This is a great time to be in boxing. This is a great time for networks and for broadcasters to be involved. I'm happy that there's a lot of competition going on. Switching my hat to the business side of it, it's important to have competition. It's important to have promoters that are competing against each other. It's important to have broadcasters that are competing against each other because it helps them improve their product. If there was just one source of everything, or just only one promotion, only one network, and only one country that does it, and only one place to have the fights, it would become kind of stale.
Even though this is your second home, really, and you probably know more here than in the States.
Exactly. So I'm excited to see what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen next, to be honest. I think we are getting ready for possibly a transition in the sport. And I think that the transition that we're coming into might be the strongest that boxing has ever been. I think that now we are seeing the tail end of a group of heavyweights that I think that were iconic. That's why I don't like that so many of them get so much flack, to be honest, because I think all four of the big heavyweights of this last generation, I think, had incredible nights, gave incredible value to all the fans, put on some of the greatest shows that we've seen in boxing, whether it be Fury Wilder having one of the best heavyweight trilogies, and just not just trilogies in general, whether it be what AJ has done for this country and on from a commercial level, and also becoming undisputed and regaining his titles and things like that, and now Usyk for the sheer dominance that he's had. I think that we're entering a transitional period where maybe some of those guys slow down a little bit. Maybe the belts fragment. We're going to see Beterbiev Bivol. Maybe that fragments some belts. We're going to see a lot of people become undisputed. Maybe they stay undisputed. Maybe they move to a different division. But we're going to start to have that transition now where a new crop of people is going to have to come up. And I'm excited for this new crop of people because they're going to be coming into a stronger industry than the previous group did. Yes, boxing was strong when Fury and AJ were coming up, but it's not what it is now.
It's a great point.
It's not what it is now. So I'm excited for the people that are coming up on the scene, whether it be, Inouye's still young, Bam Rodriguez on the smaller guys. You still have Gervonta Davis. You still have Shakur Stevenson. You still have Teofimo. You move up now, or maybe you move to the younger guys. Adam Azim is fighting next weekend. You have Dalton Smith that are fighting. Those are two domestic possible world title people from the same country, right? So we have this new crop that's coming in, and I don't know where boxing is going to be, but I think it's going to be in a lot better spot than it has been maybe the last 15, 20 years.
We could talk all night, but I'm gonna wrap up now on this. Yes. Where's Big Mo going to be in 10, 15 years' time? I spoke to Michael Buffer a couple of weeks ago. He's continuing as long as he can because he loves it still. It's a job, I guess. I still commentate. It's a job that you can take on and on. What is the future ambition? Where do you want to be? How do you want to be seen in years to come? Have you thought about it?
I'm typically a forward-thinking person. I'm always kind of looking ahead and things like that. Number one, I want to continue to entertain people on the biggest scale that I can. Whether that's just within boxing or whether that's in different industries, trying my hand at different types of entertainment, I don't really know. As it pertains to the sport of boxing, personally, I want to be a conduit to help it cross over into different industries. I think that one place that combat sports, specifically boxing, struggled with for a long time is it struggled getting those new viewers. It struggled breaking through into these different industries, into these different segments of pop culture and bringing in new people to the sport of boxing. We're starting to see it a little bit now, which is great. Netflix pulled the cover back on a lot of that because they showed it to 280 million people, and they responded. The Mike Tyson-Jake Paul documentary went #1 in the world, right? There's still a massive appetite for boxing, a lot more than just the hardcores that watch it every day and watch every promotion. So there's a lot of possible new fans to go capture. I would love to be a conduit to that. I would love to help bring new people into the sport. What I've said is, you can like boxing for any reason. Maybe you love the sport. Maybe you like the showmanship. Maybe you like whatever. If maybe it's just the entertainment that you like and it's the presentation, awesome. I'm there. I would love to help be a part of it. And I just want to put on the biggest fights possible. I've said now I've done 75,000 people or 70,000 people. I would love to see if I could do 80, if I could do 90 at Wembley. So that's maybe the next physical checkbox for me. But I love combat sports, and I think it's the greatest sport in the world. I think that there's nothing else like it on the planet, and I've seen what it can be when it works and when it comes together. For one night, it can create the best product in the world that everyone wants to watch, and if we can do that consistently, I don't think there's a sport that can touch it.
What an episode. Big Mo's voice just resonating through the studio. Absolutely love it. Adore you and your passion and everything you bring to each event, and long may it continue.
And I want to, hold on, before we cut, I want to give you your flowers. And I hinted at it before, but I've said this to you privately, and I want to say it publicly on this platform. You were a huge reason as to how I adapted my job and who I paid attention to. I take a lot of pride in watching how certain people present the product and how they do it in their own way. I got to work with you for a period of time and learn from you. I appreciate you a lot. I think you were very, very important in the growth of my career and the growth of myself personally. So I want to thank you. I think you're incredible at what you do, and I would love to find a way to work with you again.
Appreciate that. I'd love to dance with you again too, Big Mo. I'll be seeing you live. I'll be seeing you on my telly
this Saturday.
Everywhere.
Adam Azim.
Every Saturday. Adam
Every
Azim
Saturday.
this week. Every Saturday. Big Mo in your stadium, in your arena, in your home. And I hope you've enjoyed this podcast in your ears, on YouTube, on lounges, wherever you've got it. We're in association with Lounges. We're the voice of boxing, and this Big Mo podcast is done. We'll have him back, won't we? Definitely.